What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's Total Takedown. We're talking UFC Vegas 74, and you are straight up getting beach bum Clint for this episode of the show. So I apologize for the gritty lighting here on the show. We'll be back to our normal setup starting tomorrow. Just want to go over, as per usual, the show is brought to you by Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you drop a like here. And then these lines are powered by Superbook Sports. We already broke this entire fight card down on live stream on Monday. If you want to check out that replay, that's right here on Pub Sports. Click the live tab. You'll be able to find it there. We're going to go over the totals on the card, overs and unders, staying away from picking an actual side. And then, of course, tomorrow after we see the weigh-ins and face-offs, we'll be wrapping up with the undefeated post-weigh-in show. Let's dive straight on into this bad boy. And because of Wi-Fi problems, I got to keep it tight. Total for Maxime Grisham, Philippe Lins, 2.5, over -160, under 2.5, plus 145. I kind of lean under on this one. Maxime Grisham has been incredibly durable. He's 39 years old, however, and that can fall off a cliff. We've seen Philippe Lins be knocked out in several of his fights. We've seen him gas out. On top of that, fast hands, heavy hitter. I think Philippe is going to be the one pushing the pace here, and if Maxime Grisham has to fight at that pace, I think it leads to one of them getting knocked out. These are older fighters, so obviously this one could be a greasy, slow heavyweight fight or a light heavyweight fight where they're hanging on each other 5 minutes in. Nobody has the cardio anymore to get the finish, but I do kind of think we see like maybe a first or a second round finish in that fight. Luan Lacerda taking on Damon Blackshear, another 2.5 total, over 2.5, -180, under 2.5 is plus 160. And this is a really tough fight to call. Luan Lacerda is really plotting forward pressure Muay Thai, slick grappler himself. So I think the grappling is going to kind of nullify, but I think Damon Blackshear is the better wrestler of the two. So striking advantage, Lacerda grappling advantage. I mean, it's close. It's close. Wrestling advantage, Damon. Jiu-jitsu, they're pretty much on the same level. So I think we have opportunities for this fight to finish, but Damon Blackshear is super tough. Luan Lacerda seems super solid. I kind of think this thing finds its way up into the third round, and that puts that 2.5 right at that sweet spot where I don't want to lay chalk going over because it could end just before that. But I also am not comfortable just getting plus 160 on an under here in this spot. I think I'm going to lean ever so slightly to the over, but -180 is not a good number for me. I'm not taking that. Jinh Frey taking on Elise Reed. Total set at 2.5 for this one. Over 2.5, -250. Under 2.5 is plus 220. And I actually do think some under 2.5 isn't a half bad idea in this one. So Jinh Frey just got her BJJ brown belt. She just got promoted. She's going to be able to have that wrestling advantage. If she decides to go to the grappling, she should be able to take Elise Reed down. We've seen her just be completely helpless down there. Elise Reed's basically just been using the track as her training partner, so I don't know that she's working on her grappling or her takedown defense, etc. I don't know who her training partners are, her coaches, anything like that. She could be not improved whatsoever on the mat, but on the feet, Jinh Frey just coming off getting starched on the feet. She's going to be at a reach disadvantage, and the one thing Elise Reed can do is crack. So I do think both women are capable of finishing in this spot. Hot take, under 2.5, plus 220 might not be a bad number. Jamie Mullarkey taking on UFC short notice fighter Naimov. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not going to try. We don't actually have a total release for this one just yet. This is a short notice fight, so just ever so slightly. I need to do my study on Naimov. I have not looked into him, but from what I understand, he is coming up a weight class. Jamie Mullarkey may not be the best city kickboxing fighter, but he's tough. He's gritty, he hits hard, he's well-rounded. If you're coming in short notice and up a weight class, that's the kind of spot where someone like Jamie Mullarkey can just handle you and show where he belongs. So I would kind of lean violence, but I would kind of lean on the Jamie Mullarkey inside the distance side of things. That's without looking at Naimov. So just kind of a quick overview off the top of the dome for you guys there. I'll look into it more and hopefully have some more information for you later. Muin Gafarov taking on John Castañeda. Another 2.5. Over 2.5 is -140. Under 2.5. Plus 120. I kind of like violence in this spot. Muin is coming in on short notice here. John Castañeda, very slick striker. I think he's going to have a technical striking advantage pretty much everywhere, but we've seen forward pressure get to him and crack him before. We've seen him quit. With Muin coming forward constantly, slinging overhand rights and shooting in on double legs, I could see him wearing John Castañeda down and getting him out of there. However, John Castañeda has enough offensive weapons that if he catches Muin coming in and overselling for one of those things, if his cardio isn't quite where it needs to be because of the short notice nature of this fight, I could see Castañeda also getting a finish. Kind of lean to violence there again. Dontel Mays taking on Andrei Arlovsky, another 2.5. The over is -185. The under 2.5 is plus 165. This one's really tough. I mean, if it's an Andrei Arlovski fight, it's probably going 15 minutes. I mean, that's just kind of basically how things go, except Dante Almeida has that huge finishing upside. You know, I had to just kind of like cry myself to sleep a little bit watching back the Hamdy fight, but in round 2, Dante Almeida almost completely knocked Hamdy out. And then you go back to Andrei Arlovski's last couple fights. He got absolutely exposed on the ground. He got club and subbed in 60 seconds in his last fight. So the age is starting to show, the cliff is starting to come. I do think Dante Almeida is more than capable of finishing, but Andrei Arlovski doesn't finish anybody. So that's where you're kind of picking your fighter here. I'd rather take Mays inside the distance and get a better number, but I kind of think he actually has a chance to shine here against aging Andrei Arlovski. He might show out a little bit, turn some heads, surprise people with what he's capable of after that awful performance in his last fight. Johnny Munoz Jr. taking on Daniel Gustavo Santos. 2.5 the total. Under 2.5 is minus 165. The over 2.5 is plus 145. This is another violent spot. It has to be. It's a Daniel Gustavo Santos fight. This guy does nothing but maraud his way forward. So far, he's been able to tank every single thing that comes back his direction impressively somehow. He has survived. But that's where you either die by his sword or he's willing to walk into head kicks. Eventually, that chin is going to crack. Eventually, somebody's going to put him down. I don't know if it's going to be Saturday or not, but I think that's just the way this guy fights. You play under until otherwise somebody shows they can survive his onslaught, or he shows that he's incapable of finishing a beaten and tired opponent. Dude's a finisher, forces unders every single fight. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos taking on Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Another 2.5. This one's chalked up, though. Over 2.5 is minus 200. Under 2.5 is plus 175. I kind of agree with the over. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos can be a little low volume, kind of picks his shots on the feet. And then, of course, Abubakar is going to be looking for the chain wrestling takedowns, staying all the way out or getting all the way in on this kind of a dangerous striker. I think we see a bit of a staring match, a bit of a low-volume striking fight. Elizeu Zaleski obviously could catch Abubakar. I think on the ground especially, he has an opportunity to catch a neck or transition to the back, things of that nature. But it's such a minimal outcome, in my opinion. We're probably going to go 15. It's probably going to be a tough and gritty fight. It's probably going to be very tactical and risk-adverse from both guys, so I think we see an over. Ketlen Souza is taking on Karine Silva and another 2.5 for women's MMA, but we got one of those tricky near even money, minus 105 over 2.5. Under 2.5 is minus 115. They actually have this one favored to go under 2.5 rounds. You guys know me. I look to make the argument of, okay, they're giving us even money. Does that mean we shoot over this time? The problem is usually when they do this, they're dead on, and it should have been a 1.5, not a 2.5, because when women's violence is on the table, it absolutely is on the table for a reason. So the way these two women fight, I do think we can see a finish. Karine Silva obviously just needs one opportunity on the ground to finish you. Ketlen Souza has vicious power in her hands, and I think she'll be the better striker here in this spot. We're in for a car crash. I think under 2.5 is probably the way to go. Victor Altamirano taking on Tim Elliott. Another 2.5 over, minus 240, under, plus 210. We've all kind of talked through this one, and I do think there's some upside for violence here in this fight. Tim Elliott coming out with reckless abandon after the whole divorce thing. He's talking about wanting to, finish his opponent. He probably wants to vent some frustrations and some anger out in there, and why wouldn't he? Victor Altamirano coming in here on short notice. Now, I'm not necessarily worried about him the way I am with other short notice fighters because his gas tank is unquestionable. Like, we know for a fact he's going to be able to keep pace. He's going to be able to go a hard 15 minutes. That's just Victor's style. So the thing is, Victor, if he catches Tim Elliott, he can step on the gas and maybe finish where some other fighters wouldn't be able to. So if Tim is constantly pushing the pace, it's going to force a gunfight. I do think one of these guys gets caught or clipped. Combined with the short notice aspect of it, not a whole lot of opportunity to train for the opponent. Yeah, I think we could absolutely flip this thing and see an under 2.5 here. Jared Gordon and Jim Miller coming up here. 2.5 again. Over 2.5 is minus 150. Under 2.5 plus 130. Jared Gordon doesn't finish anybody. So if you think Jared Gordon's winning this fight, over 2.5 at minus 150 is a steal. Jim Miller, on the other hand, is kind of a round 2 monster at this point in his career. It used to be round 1 Jim Miller, but these days it seems like he's just getting it done in round 2 instead. Not sure why that is. The big concern to me, Jared Gordon coming off being concussed. Listened to an interview of his. I kind of thought, you know what, maybe it's no big deal. Maybe he's all right. He should still be able to grind out old man Jim Miller. But he talked about literally like dealing with the dark room and getting over concussion symptoms and stuff like that. you're turning around on 1 month after literally being concussed. I mean, we're talking doctor diagnosed concussed. You have to be in a dark room to get those symptoms off of you. I don't know how he got cleared for this fight, frankly. I really don't. So I kind of think there's an opportunity to see an under in this spot. But again, I'm never taking Jared Gordon under. I would rather bet Jim Miller inside the distance if we're going to do that. So kind of lean to under 2.5. If you like Jared Gordon, then play the over 2.5. This is a very sketchy fight. There's a lot of weird factors going into this one, so I would probably stay away. Take a bigger plus money number on Jim if you're going to look for violence. Otherwise, ride the lightning with Jared Gordon and see if you can get this thing over. Daniel Pineda coming up. I got to be quick. I'm running out of battery. Daniel Pineda, Alex Caceres, 1.5, over 1.5 minus 170, under 1.5 plus 150. I'd be looking for an alternate. I want under 2.5. Because Daniel Pineda dies after 5 minutes of trying hard. He can finish anybody, but then he's helpless. So I want violence, but I want a 2.5, not a 1.5. Amir Albazi taking on Caceres. We have a 3.5 here at Superbook, which is very odd. Usually it's 4.5. Over 3.5, minus 160. Under 3.5, plus 140. I again would be kind of looking towards violence. Caceres has massive power in his hands. Amir Albazi steps on the gas and does not let you off. We have not seen him in 5 rounds, so because of that, I think he can either be amazing in 5 rounds and his grappling will get the better of Caceres. We've seen him have trouble in the submissions, so I think Albazi could finish Caceres on the mat. However, if Albazi is not everything he's cracked up to be at 5 rounds for the first time, trying to put that kind of a pace on, he could easily get caught by Caceres and get knocked out in this spot. So I like violence in the main event as well. Sketchy low-level fight, that usually means lots of finishes. That's the Total Takedown, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. Good luck.